Hello everyone, today we are going to watch the movie named Delering. The protagonist Lana, who is a 40-year-old woman, teaches Dutch language in a university, is at her wit's end about how to handle her new 23-year-old student Benny, an aggressive yet also cold-blooded alpha male. She is afraid of Benny, but at the same time, to her own dismay, is attracted to him. Lana struggles to escape Benny's dark attraction. Let's get into the movie. The movie starts by showing a woman named Lana playing guessing game with her daughter Raya and her husband in their bedroom. She regularly jogs in the morning and take rest in the side of the lake. Lana is a teacher in a reputed university. On that day, she conducts a test to her students. She starts to distribute the question paper and ask the students to read it twice before start answering. Everyone starts to write but Benny, who is new to the college, stares at her, which makes Lana uncomfortable. She tries to ignore him, but she is somewhat astonished by his beauty. Then she goes to pick up her daughter Raya in her school. Raya says her class is boring. Then Lana carry her daughter to her car. She sees Benny walking his dog on the street. She stares at him before her daughter yells at her to drive the car. The next day in the class, one of her student named Jeremy giving presentation, while two girls in the class looking at their phone and chuckles. Lana warns them, but they didn't stop their actions. Lana infuriated and asked Valerie to submit their phones. While Valerie returning to her bench, she murmurs dirty about Lana, and the whole class starts to laugh at her. This makes Lana more unbearable, and asks Valerie to report to the head of the department. After the class, while Lana is having coffee, she sees Benny bullying Valerie, and took her bag and dumped her belonging onto the street. He then damaged the bicycle by throwing it on the floor. She is shocked by the behavior of Benny. Later, Lana asked one of her colleagues about Benny, and the way he looked at the teachers. Surprisingly, she gets a positive reply that Benny is quiet and calm guy. Later in the break, Lana calls Benny for a meeting in a vacant classroom. She asks him to sit. Then begins that she is worried about him for the behavior with his classmate. She explains that he has only been in the college for a few weeks, and that you have to get used to. But you seems not really being able to find your way, and she offers to help him with anything by touches Benny's ties. Benny stares at her intimidatingly. Benny says he don't need her help and he don't believe her. Lana explains that we are talking about your future and you get failed in the last week mock exam. Benny smirks at her and asks her what do you really want from him. She seems to be flustered and ends the conversation and leaves. At home, she glares at the profile of Benny. It seems to be she is preoccupied with the thoughts of Benny. Her daughter interrupts her and reminds her about the dinner. She assures to join her for the dinner. The next day after the class ends, all the students leaves the classroom. Lana prepares to leave before seeing the backpack of Benny lying beside his desk. She then opened it and finds his cloth. She then smells the sweetie t-shirt of Benny and gets stimulated. She puts the t-shirt back into his backpack before someone spots her. She then rushes to the restroom and drinks some water to calm herself. To her surprise, Benny walks behind her and grabs her before she leaves. He touches her left bosom. She first hesitates, but later allow him to grab her bosom. He then proceeds to kiss her in the neck. When they both try to kiss, she gets realized herself and stops him. She tells him that they both should agree that this should never happen again. And then she warns him that she can get him out of the college for this incident. But Benny replies that she wants him too. Lana made a clear statement that she never have any feeling of love for her students, because they are all lower age, and leaves the restroom. That night she finds difficulty in sleeping due to the day's encounter with Benny, but her husband sleeps peacefully without any knowledge about Benny. The next day, while Lana walks in the corridor, Benny approaches her from behind and walks beside her. He touches her shoulder often while walking. He asks her to meet him after the college hour. Lana tells him that they can't meet and feels sorry for that incident. She asks him to forget her and leaves from the place. Later that day, she goes to the parking lot and finds that her car side mirror has been damaged and scratches has been made on her car. Her instinct says Benny would have done this. She then gets into the car and goes to pick up her daughter Raya. While returning to her car, she sees Benny hanging out with her friends. She thinks he is following her, but to her surprise he is not Benny. At home, while she doing gardening work, her husband asks about the damage happened to her car. She lied to her husband saying that she drive close to a lamp post. Her husband doesn't believe her lies and walk away saying that her tea is getting cold. The next day in class, she distribute the question paper to the students and ask them to write a cover letter for their internship. She asked the class if they have any questions regarding the cover letter. Benny raised his hands and makes dirtily inappropriate statement about her and the headmistress. The whole class starts to laugh at her. This infuriated Lana and she picks up his bag and throws it out of the classroom. She tells him that it's either he goes out or she does. After a student throws a duster at the board almost hitting Lana, She walks out amidst cheering from the students. Later, when she is at her home, reading storybook to her daughter, the phone rings and she picks it up. There is a silence on the other end and she hung up the phone. When the phone repeatedly rings, she took the receiver and placed it beside unattended. The next day when she goes to the college, before entering into the class, she saw Benny inside and gets panic. She tells the receptionist that she isn't feeling well, and asks someone to take over the class and leaves the college. At home while making dinner for the family, her husband asked her about the day in college. She lied to her husband that it's been teaching all day, and she had an assessment interview in the afternoon. The next day, routinely she goes to drop her kid in the school, but she doesn't go to her work. Instead, she spend time near the riverside and eat an apple. For the next few days she didn't go to her college, she spent time for herself. One day, she goes to nearby art museum. While viewing the art, Benny suddenly shows up. She panics and starts to run from him, but she is unsuccessful when they both end up in the lift. Benny tells her that she wants to come to the college, and he misses her very much. He begins to touch her seductively. He grabs her bosom. Unfortunately, Lana loses her control and tries to kiss him twice, but Benny stops her and wanders his hand below her. She doesn't stop him, instead enjoy the moment. After that, Lana comes home early. She sits inside her car and stares at her husband and daughter coming home. She's consumed by guilt of what happened between her and Benny. Later she confessed to her husband about the dream that bothering her. It is summer, and she is swimming. Her husband and Ra'aya are playing with the ball on the beach. While she's swimming, something pulls her down, and no matter how hard she's trying to make her way to the surface, she cannot make progress. She's ultimately pulled underwater, where she is so scared of choking. Unfortunately, she isn't strong enough to swim up. Thus she somehow reveals to her husband about her disloyalty. The next day, Lana is seen running in the forest, and stops when she reaches the lake. She throws a stone at the lake and stirs things up. She makes up her mind to put an end to all things. Then Lana returns to the college. She sneaks into the administration office and steals the exam papers from the locker. She then goes to cafeteria where Benny and all other students having fun. Lana placed the exam paper into Benny's coat to incriminate him, and leaves from there. At home, she feels relief that she has get rid of him. She spends some intimate time with her husband. Next day, while speaking with her colleague in the break room, she watches Benny being caught by the cops and smiles at him. He is expelled from the college too. Lana is very happy that Benny will not come to college again. Meanwhile, Lana and her husband were seen spending their romantic time in the lake. Her husband tries to fool her playfully by going under the water, but Lana starts panicking when he does not shows up. After a short while he shocks her from the back. Lana abruptly wakes up from her sleep as it turns out to be a dream. Next day in the class, Lana misses Benny very much. She recollects the intimate time spent with her student Benny. She tries to change her mood, but she can't. Some days later, Lana took her daughter to a bookstore to buy a gift for her friend. Ra'aya gets mad at her for not allowing her to buy anything. Lana gets irritated and starts to walk away. She then turned to find that her daughter is not following her. She searches for her throughout the store but can't find. Eventually she called the police for help and checks the CCTV of the shop. Lana gets shocked when she sees Benny going behind her daughter. She thinks that he will be the reason behind the disappearance of her daughter, but soon her husband calls her and reveals that Ra'aya is with him in the home. Lana informs the police and leaves the store. Later that night, she hears the banging sound on the doors. While her family is asleep, she goes after the sound and after sometimes it stops. Lana closes the door and starts dreaming of the encounters with Benny. The memories of dark experience begins to haunt her, until it was interrupted by her husband in the next morning. He notices the change in her behavior and asked about it. She tries to divert him by getting close to him, but her husband finds she is not okay. Finally, it's now her turn to stalk Benny. She follows him in her car as he's riding his scooter. She keeps following Benny, clearly searching for an opening to harm him. She finds a spot and abruptly diverge her car onto him forcefully to hit him. After a moment, she stops the car to see him. She's breathing heavily but looks satisfied. She swiftly opens the door to check the consequences of her actions. It doesn't know that Benny has died or not, but having an inappropriate relationship with her student wasn't enough for her to be a criminal. Finally, Lana become a murderer, and the movie ends. Thanks for watching the video.